It's 350 BCE in the sweltering heat of ancient Athens. A man named Diogenes, known as the Dog, lives in a discarded, cracked clay storage jar in the middle of the marketplace. He owns nothing but a worn cloak and a staff. He is famous for walking through the crowded city with a lit lantern in broad daylight, holding it up to people's faces and claiming he is simply looking for an honest man. He is the original iconoclast, a man who uses extreme public disruption, shock, and total cringe to expose the deep-seated hypocrisy of society. He had no idea that over 2,000 years later, he would describe the career of Darren Watkins Jr., IShowSpeed, with frightening accuracy. To the internet, speed is a chaotic force of nature, a high-energy streamer who breaks every rule of social decorum. But through a cynic lens, IShowSpeed is not Diogenes' successor. He is the realization of the philosopher's greatest fear. Diogenes used shamelessness to find freedom. Speed has figured out how to turn shamelessness into a billion-dollar cage. This is how the world's most energetic creator perfected a digital version of the exact dog-like existence Diogenes warned would lead to the death of the human soul. Performative shamelessness. Diogenes of Sinope lived by a concept called anaideia, which translates to shamelessness. He believed that human beings were enslaved by artificial social rules, manners, politeness, and the desperate need for approval. To break these chains, he performed the most private acts in the most public places. He ate with his hands in the middle of a formal square and barked at aristocrats. He believed that if you could kill your sense of shame, you could finally be free from the opinions of others. Now look at a typical IShowSpeed stream. He barks at strangers on Omegle. He screams at the top of his lungs in quiet restaurants.
No! Oh my!
Hey, can you please be respectful? There's other people eating here. Just please be respectful.
He performs erratic, hyperactive stunts that make the average person recoil in embarrassment. On the surface, this is anaideia in its purest form. Speed appears to be a man who has completely murdered his own sense of shame. But there is a fundamental difference that Diogenes would have found horrifying. For Diogenes, shamelessness was a tool for internal liberation. He didn't care if the crowd laughed or threw rocks. He did it to prove he didn't need them. For Speed, shamelessness is a marketable commodity. In the digital economy, cringe is a high-yield asset. Every time Speed does something shameless, he is checking the live viewer count. The shame isn't being destroyed, it's being sold. Diogenes warned that if you perform your life for an audience, you aren't a philosopher, you're a performer. Speed's wildness is a social relationship masked by a screen. He isn't barking to show that social rules are fake, he's barking because the algorithm rewards the loudest noise. It is the ultimate irony. The man who looks the most free is actually the most dependent on the reaction of the mob, the attention prison. One of the core pillars of Cynic philosophy was ascesis, or rigorous training. Diogenes famously rolled his body in hot sand in the summer and embraced snow-covered statues in the winter. He wasn't doing this to flex or go viral. He was training his body and soul to need nothing. He once saw a child drinking water with his hands and immediately threw away his only wooden cup, crying out, "A child has beaten me in plainness of living." The goal of ascesis was total self-sufficiency, to be happy even if you had nothing. Now analyze the rigorous training of IShowSpeed. Darren Watkins puts himself through incredible physical and mental strain. He streams for 24 hours straight. He does backflips until he collapses. He screams until his vocal cords are literally bleeding. He endures sub-goals where he is forced to do whatever the chat demands for hours on end. This looks like discipline, but it is the exact opposite of what Diogenes practiced. Diogenes' training led to autarkia, self-sufficiency. Speed's training leads to total dependency. Speed has trained his mind to require a constant stream of external validation. He is trapped in a sub-goal loop where his physical suffering is the fuel for the engagement engine. Diogenes warned that the more you train to please the crowd, the more the crowd becomes your master. If Speed stopped being chaotic for even 1 hour, his value would drop. He is an athlete of attention, but the prison he has built is made of likes and donations. He has the stamina of a warrior, but he uses it to stay chained to a desk, proving Diogenes' point that without a virtuous purpose, even the strongest man is just a servant to his own fame. The truth trap. Diogenes was the master of parrhesia, or fearless speech. This brings us to the most famous story in the history of philosophy, his encounter with Alexander the Great, when the world's most powerful conqueror stood over the philosopher and asked if there was anything he could do for him. Diogenes didn't ask for money, power, or fame. He simply looked up and said, "Yes, stand a little out of my sunshine." He spoke the truth regardless of the consequences. He used his voice to strip away the masks of the powerful and show them their own insignificance. He wanted nothing from Alexander because Alexander had nothing that Diogenes valued. IShowSpeed also practices a form of fearless speech. He says the most unhinged, unfiltered things imaginable. He calls out celebrities and ignores the rules of decorum. When this gives his audience a sense of authenticity, they feel like they are watching someone real in a world of fake scripted influencers. But this is where the truth trap closes. When Speed interacts with the Alexanders of our world, the celebrities, the athletes, the billionaires, he isn't asking them to move out of his light. He is desperately chasing their light. His frankness is a performance designed to generate a 15-second TikTok clip. Diogenes sought to find an honest man by stripping away the performance. Speed has created a world where the performance is the only thing that feels honest. He can insult a football star or a world leader, but he can never tell the one truth that would end his career, that he is as much a prisoner of the live button as his viewers are. The crowd's dog. The word cynic comes from the Greek word for dog-like. Diogenes embraced this title. He said he was a dog because he fawns on those who give him anything, barks at those who refuse, and sets his teeth in rascals. He lived like a dog to prove that nature is better than the complex lying world of civilization. But he was a stray dog, beholden to no one. He didn't have a leash, and he didn't have a master. In the digital agora, IShowSpeed has also embraced the persona of the dog. He literally barks at his audience. He acts on animal instinct. He is the speedy persona, unfiltered, raw, and wild. But look closer at the leash. Diogenes barked at people to make them think. Speed barks because the dono goal was met. In this microeconomy, the crowd is the master. The chat is the hand that feeds. In Speed has flipped the cynic's greatest weapon. Diogenes used dog-like behavior to mock the crowd's dependency on luxury. Speed uses dog-like behavior to satisfy the crowd's hunger for entertainment. He is the ultimate realization of Diogenes' warning, a man who has abandoned his human dignity not to find nature but to become a digital pet. He barks on command for bits and gifted subs. The crowd doesn't watch him because they respect his freedom. They watch him because they own his time. He is the dog of the internet, but unlike Diogenes, he has traded his storage jar for a mansion built on the requirement that he never stops barking. Artificial wildness. Diogenes' ultimate goal was to live kaita facies, according to nature. He mocked the artificial lives of the wealthy with their perfumes, their complex foods, and their constant need for entertainment. He wanted a return to the simple, the raw, and the chaotic beauty of the natural world. He believed that the direction a society takes is decided by what it teaches its children. As he famously said, the foundation of every state is the education of its youth. IShowSpeed's brand is built on natural chaos. He is unpredictable, he is wild, he is unscripted, but in reality, Speed's chaos is the most artificial thing on the internet. It is a calculated overproduction of behavior. Every scream, every backflip, and every crash is optimized for maximum retention. And this is where Diogenes' quote becomes terrifying. If the education of the youth is now found in the 24/7 hyperstimulated streams of IShowSpeed, what kind of state are we building? Speed's nature is actually a feedback loop. He does something wild, the viewers increase, and so he does it again, but louder. He is educating an entire generation to believe that freedom is the ability to scream at a screen, rather than the ability to sit in silence and need nothing. Diogenes wanted to live in a jar to show he didn't need the city. Speed lives in the city of the internet, and he needs every single person in it to keep his nature alive. He isn't living cataphysis, he is living kaita algorithm. He has perfected the artificial wildness that Diogenes feared, a state where we are so addicted to the spectacle of chaos that we forget what it actually means to be a free, quiet, and honest human being. Diogenes of Sinope once saw the son of a prostitute throwing stones at a crowd and cried out, "Take care you don't hit your father." It was a joke about the commonality of human vice, how we are all part of the same messy, hypocritical world. Today, we are the crowd, and IShowSpeed is throwing stones. We laugh, we clip it, and we donate. But Diogenes' final warning is that the stones eventually hit us all. Speed is not the problem, he is the mirror. He is what happens when a society that claims to value freedom and authenticity actually only values attention and noise. He has perfected the dog-like life, but he's done it for the wrong reasons. He has found the storage jar, but he's filled it with cameras and sponsors. Diogenes spent his life looking for an honest man. If he held his lantern up to IShowSpeed today, he wouldn't find a philosopher. He would find a young man who has been forced to turn his own soul into a 24/7 reality show just to stay relevant in a world that refuses to look at anything that isn't screaming. Speed is what happens when the dog finally gets 1 billion followers. He stops being a critic of the system and becomes its most profitable prisoner.